When we look at history, we are taught that electricity was discovered in the 19th century. But what if this is not true? What if humans already knew electricity 2,000 years ago? What if this knowledge was lost over time or deliberately ignored? The year was 1936. Near Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, an ordinary-looking clay jar was discovered. And this simple object raised exactly these questions. Today, this artifact is known as the Baghdad Battery. It is considered one of the 10 most mysterious objects in the world and one of the most controversial discoveries in history. In 1936, near Baghdad, in a region called Khujut Rabu, workers were constructing a new railway line. During the excavation, they came across a grave in an ancient settlement. Inside the grave, they uncovered several clay jars that appeared completely ordinary at first glance, along with various other objects. These jars were examined by Wilhelm König, the German archaeologist and director of the Baghdad Museum at the time. During his examination, a surprising internal structure was revealed. Inside the jars was a cylindrical sheet of copper. At the center of the copper stood an iron rod, and the opening was sealed with a substance similar to asphalt, known as bitumen. This structure resembled something modern. In fact, it looked remarkably similar to a modern battery. Wilhelm König suggested that these jars closely resembled a galvanic cell, the primitive form of the batteries we use today. The working principle of modern batteries is quite simple. Two different metals, a chemical reaction between them, and the production of electrical current. The structure found inside these jars matched this principle exactly. Iron and copper, an acidic liquid. This was a perfect match for a galvanic cell. The estimated production date of the Baghdad Battery ranges from 250 BC to 651 AD. The strongest theories suggest that these objects belong to the Sasanian Empire, which ruled between 225 and 651 AD. Here is the critical detail. The first known modern battery, the voltaic pile, was invented in 1800 by Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, which means this: if the jars found near Baghdad were truly primitive batteries, then the Sasanians were using this knowledge approximately 1,500 years earlier. So the question becomes, was this possible? And more importantly, if they possessed this knowledge, how did they obtain it? And why did it not continue? The first experimental test of the Baghdad Battery was conducted by Willard Gray. Gray worked at General Electric's high-voltage laboratory in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Using Koenig's drawings, he constructed a replica of the device. By using copper sulfate as the electrolyte, Gray was able to produce approximately 1.5 volts of electricity and reported that it worked quite well for a short period of time. This experiment was the first serious test that caused the theory to be taken seriously by the modern scientific community. A second major experiment was conducted in the 1970s by Professor Dr. Arne Egebrecht, an Egyptologist and archaeologist and director of the Roma Pelizius Museum. Egebrecht's goal was simple: to construct a device similar to the Baghdad Battery and see whether it could perform real work. The test he chose was highly meaningful: electroplating. Because electroplating can be performed even with low voltage, Egebrecht built a Baghdad Battery replica and filled it with grape juice. When a single unit failed to produce sufficient voltage, he connected multiple Baghdad batteries in series, just like modern batteries. As a result, he successfully coated a silver figurine with a very thin layer of gold. This experiment offered a possible explanation for an old mystery. Why were people in antiquity able to coat objects with such perfectly uniform layers of gold. Another experiment took place in 1999 at Smith College in Massachusetts, USA. Students, under the supervision of Dr. Marjorie Senecal, constructed replicas of the Baghdad Battery and tested them. They filled the jars with vinegar and produced approximately 1.1 volts of electricity. As these experiments demonstrated, the device did work. However, the electrical current produced was quite small, so the question remains. Even if the Sasanians or other ancient civilizations were capable of generating electricity, what were they using this low-voltage electricity for? As shown in Egebrecht's experiment, it was possible to coat a silver figurine with a layer of gold using the Baghdad Battery. The Sasanians may have used this method to decorate small statues used in temples or valuable jewelry with thinner and more flawless gold coatings. Beyond electroplating, some theories suggest that the battery may have been used for medical or ritual purposes. Certain ancient Mesopotamian texts mention the healing power of metal and electrical current. Perhaps the battery was applied to small areas of skin or muscle to create a soothing effect. The ancient Greeks, in their writings, described how electric fish were used to treat pain. Inflamed and painful feet were placed on electric fish until the area became numb. In a paper published in 1993, American physicist Paul Kaiser suggested that because electric fish were not found in the Mesopotamian region, people there may have invented these batteries to imitate the electrical shock produced by such fish. Kaiser also proposed that bronze and iron needles discovered during excavations in the Seleucia region, where the batteries were found, may have been used alongside these devices in a form of ancient acupuncture therapy. Perhaps the Baghdad Battery was only a small fragment of a much larger body of knowledge lost in the dark corners of history. Humanity may have discovered the secrets of electricity thousands of years ago, only for that knowledge to be forgotten or concealed over time. Based on the evidence and experiments available today, we can say that the Baghdad Battery is a truly unique discovery. Perhaps research could have continued and gone even further. Unfortunately, in 2003, during the war in Iraq, the National Museum was looted. The Baghdad Battery, along with thousands of priceless ancient artifacts, was stolen. Their current location remains unknown. Maybe the real question is not whether ancient people had electricity, but rather, how many times has humanity reached the truth only to lose it again? Some knowledge is hidden, some is forgotten, and some was never meant to be found. If you want to keep uncovering what history tried to bury, subscribe, because the truth is never completely lost.